All right, welcome back everyone to another episode of Mono's Game Club. This is episode 6 and it's quite a special podcast episode because today we have a guest called TheFreshBakedGoods. We're going to talk to him, we're going to interview him regarding the Hell tanking situation. If I'm not completely focused right now, it's because my gaming PC just completely died on me. So, after this podcast, there won't be a regular stream, which kind of sucks because, my computer's officially dead right now. I can't really, I've been trying to install Windows for the past 2 hours and it's just not working. Anyhow, that's going to be the podcast for today. I will say that a lot of people are asking, you're doing this focus on Hallelujah. Is that always going to be the podcast? No. Starting probably after this podcast, we will be focusing on more mainstream topics and not focusing too much on Hallelujah, because I know there's a lot of people that like the podcast that aren't super into Hallelujah, and that's really not the idea of the podcast. That's the situation.
All right.
So let's bring him on.
Without further ado, the Fresh Baked Goods. Come on down, Mr. Fresh Baked Goods.
All right, I'm back. I'm here.
Hey, what's up? Welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being here. So for those of us that don't know Fresh Baked Goods, Fresh, who are you?
I am a simple man. No, you mostly know me from Hell Let Loose. Obviously, that's where we're all connected. Been making content on it for almost 2 years now. But I'm pretty much known for being the tank guy of Hell Let Loose at this point. That's kind of what my channel's devolved into at this point. And it's really just a chaotic mess of World War II armor combat. And it's a good time. But, it's brought me closer to all you guys and met a lot of cool people through it, but that's really my claim to fame.
Awesome. Well, Terry, let's start off with you here.
So what really got you into creating content, not just for Hell Let Loose, or just in general? What got you started? What gave you that initial kick to get going?
So this is actually pretty, I don't know, it's funny to me. So my channel is actually several years old. I think I started the channel maybe about 8 years ago, and I made videos for a couple months. And this is how the channel started, where it was me and about 3 friends, and we would just, are we allowed to cuss on this, by the way?
Absolutely, as much as you want.
All right, so it was just me and a couple friends, and we would just get shit-housed and play GameCube games and make drinking games out of them, and that's what the channel started out of. We recorded ourselves just getting plastered and playing Mario Party and some Godzilla fighting game and shit like that, and we put videos on the internet of that for a month, and we realized it was probably not a good idea. Then I didn't make any content for several years, and then actually 3 years ago I started they were terrible videos. They're well gone off the channel now, but I made Apex Legends videos and Warzone videos and shit like that. And then eventually, once COVID hit, I had a lot more time on my hands, and I found Hell Let Loose the month that shit started getting bad. And I just jumped into it and started making a couple videos, fell in love with the game. Everything kind of clicked together and it kind of just took off.
Did you?
Yeah, because I'm looking at your channel. And I can see.
Oh, it's all everything's deleted.
November 2013.
It's
all gone.
It's almost 10 years old now.
I could watch the dodgy stuff, but no.
Dude, I had a solid 20 subscribers just watching me get drunk, and it was great. But at the same time, awesome. As you're applying for jobs and stuff, you got to start deleting the bad news.
Did you have your face for those early videos?
What was that?
Oh, sorry. Did you have your face for those early videos?
Oh, yeah. We were just openly just getting hammered. It'd be typical. And I would honestly should have kept with it, because that was before the times of Let's Plays and stuff were really taking off. Fucking almost 10 years ago. It's holy shit, we were just ahead of the game, but we were just also just dumb kids. That'd be a hit now.
I know.
Yeah, did you?
My old stuff is still. I've still got all my old stuff, even the really bad rubbish stuff is still up
Oh,
there.
I
think the
yeah,
only
I
part-
wiped
Oh,
I wiped it all, dude. Even all the Apex Legends and Warzone stuff. I was like, dude, Hell Loose. Like as soon as Hell Loose started taking off, I'm like, this is all anyone's ever gonna know.
dude, I had my channel started in Spanish, so I had to take all of that down, and it's still there. You know, it's just unlisted videos, but it's still all there. Though I did create my account, like YouTube. You know, when you put like your stats and you put like since creation and whatever. I think I created the account like 8 years before I started actually uploading content. So when I do that, it's like, yo, nothing happened for like the longest time, and then it's like, boom.
Yeah, that's the way mine looks too. It's just like nothing. Then there'll be like a random blip in like fucking 2017 of some guy like looking up a random video, me then like back down, and then finally up when Hell Loose came out.
So weird how those just explode out of nowhere. Like
Yeah.
the TikToks, right? The TikToks, they just explode and then they just disappear. And then it just explodes and it disappears. So strange.
TikTok's just fucking, that's a whole nother story. That's
That's
just
a
TikTok
whole-
is weird,
everything at the
dude.
wall, throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah,
Oh man.
yeah. TikTok's definitely very strange.
But yeah, I mean, as far as like content creation and stuff, man, COVID, perfect storm for a lot of bad news, but for me it was great news because I got a lot more time on my hands to play Hell Loose and really make a channel out of it and make a good hobby out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, nice one. I think we've had Mono and Raz's stories, which were kind of a bit more involved, especially you, Mono. But my story about getting started was pretty much like, that's what, I'll just try it.
Yeah,
And that's it, pretty much.
yeah, you just make a few
Nothing to do
videos
with
and all of a sudden,
COVID or anything like that. I started October 2018. It was just like, yeah, I'll give it a go.
nice.
Fresh,
I always like getting videos too.
did you start playing like what tank games did you play before Hell Loose, or did you really get into tanking with Hell Loose?
That's all Hell Loose. I never had an interest in tanks or anything like that. No, it was, and honestly, that all stems just from like, I play, well, I'm over 1,000 hours in Hell Loose now, but I didn't even get into a tank until like probably like somewhere around hour 500, 600.
Oh, really?
And that was just like, shout out to my dude Bayou Banana for one day just being like, yo, let's hot jump in this thing. And after that, I really liked it. It was fun, but those are the videos that really took off for me. It's kind of like going back to content creation. You got to find your niche. It's like obviously Hell Loose is a niche, but making tank content within that is like a whole nother level of niche. And that's kind of, why the channel went that way, is because I enjoy it. And at the same time, there's not really a lot of content out there of it. Shout out to all you guys. You guys make excellent infantry content, and there's no need for me to try and compete with you guys on that front.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because I would say, I mean, offhand, like I watch a lot of Hell Loose. I can't think of any other tanker aside from you, and that's it.
Yeah, nobody does it. So I was like, fuck it, I'll do it.
It's super interesting too, because like people really like one or the other. Because I've seen like Alpine, for example. So I took him out in a tank one time. People hated tanking. They're just like, no,
The Alpine tanker?
infantry only. Yeah, but then like I mean, it's just so crazy. Like people only like one or the other. People like a lot of people
I don't get it. I like both. I mean, they're both fun to me.
So.
Same.
Yeah, I enjoy vehicles. Well, Terry, you don't enjoy vehicles very much. You prefer infantry all the time, basically.
Yeah. I've played maybe one or two full tank games in Hell Let Loose. One was with you, Mono, on Kursk.
Yes.
Where we was just camping their spawn. I can't remember what the other one was.
Fortunately,
And I mean, I'm when I'm playing infantry, I'm constantly running around trying to take these dodgy little routes, jumping over walls to get behind people, and trying to weave in and out and just basically charge at them. And with a tank, it's like I gotta like slowly.
It's a lot slower.
Slowly turn, and then I'm just like, nah, just I want to jump out and just shoot someone.
Yeah. I mean, taking Hell Loose is a whole nother. It's a whole fucking different game. It's like you're not worried about garrisons too much or anything like that. That's another big reason why I play it. I got tired of just like, being the dude that had to build all the spawn points and shit. So it was great that I get to enjoy the game just in a different way.
Well, I am gonna say that when you are tanking and I'm the dude building all the garrisons, you know, I definitely go like, I wish Fresh wasn't tanking, because that way there would be two of us building all the garrisons.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, it's just another form of enjoying the game. And the biggest aspect is who you do it with, especially, you know, at this point, obviously when I first started doing it, you know, you tank with a lot of random people. It could be really, really painful and just really, really frustrating. Once you find a good group, you know, shout out to all the beer dudes, you know, it changes the whole aspect of it. You know, once you have everyone that knows what they're doing and having fun, and it just turns into kind of like a party in this tank as you're rolling around, just shooting stuff and blowing shit up and just chatting in between everything. Because you don't have to worry about, you know, there's an enemy over here, enemy over there constantly. There's a little bit of downtime, so you get to hang out.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I have been taken on by the beer boys, so thank you. I'll shout out to the beer boys. But yeah, like before I joined you guys, I mean, it was like I tanked here and there with randoms, but now you can clearly see the difference when you hop in a tank and you have people that know what they're doing, or you know more than you, right? And some of the call outs are just everyone is on the same page, and I think that's just such a different mindset when you hop in with a skilled tanker and someone that you tank with more frequently. It just made it way more fun. Prior, when you know, it would be, you know, you'd have a great game, you'd have a terrible game, and you know, that's why it wasn't too much of a fan. But when I hopped in, had people that knew what they were doing, we were starting to do pretty well, starting to wreck everything that came out. It was definitely a game changer.
Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest factors limiting people from even doing it, because you really need a Sherpa to like show you the way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Not to preach on Helloose's lack of like a tutorial or firing range or anything. It's like in tanking especially, it's like, holy fuck, you need someone that knows what they're doing. Otherwise, if you have three people that don't know what they're doing in there, you're just not going to have a good time and not going to learn anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for me, like at least my experience when I really got into Hellodoose, it also involved like having a dude be squad leader for me, and you know, teaching me stuff like, you know, like, oh, you're new to the game, okay, you're gonna stick with me, I'm gonna show you how squad leaders actually should work in the game, right? And that's when I started really getting into the game, because before it was just like confusion is what I would say. Like, it's really confusing and you don't really understand why what's happening is happening. Yeah,
I agree. And especially, you know, it's like, especially if you spent your whole time playing infantry, then jump over to a tank, it's like, you know, I kind of have to forget a lot of your habits and develop these new ones. And it's just difficult. It's a whole nother experience. It takes like another couple 100 hours to really be successful at.
Yeah.
Misguided heroes. Misguided Heroes in the chat asked you, Fresh, any plans to do competitive stuff or organize missions in a one life op? Would be cool to see you go up against experienced players in admin cam view.
So I don't have any plans to go competitive. I can't take the game seriously enough to be like, just frankly honest. I will say, you know, it's like we're good in pubs, but you know, I'll never forget, like, you know, people think we're really good. Some of these comp tankers are fucking insane, dude. Like, so one time, the worst beating, I'm still like, I'm like PTSD from it. One time we went against the Tank Bible dudes, like Mage and Coletto, and I think it was Bloody Nine. And we were Axis on Foy, they were United States on Foy, and they wiped the floor with us. Like, you know, this is like peak beer tank, you know, like we have, it's like me, Jack, and Marco, and we're just wrecking shop. And then next match they go up in a tank against us, and they fucking destroyed us. I think they killed us like 6 times, and we got them like twice maybe, and we were in super try hard mode. So we might be sticking to pubs still, just because we can't take it that seriously. You know, we're good, but we're not that good. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, they play like a different game than we do. You know,
it was insane, dude. It was like we were just. Level. It felt like learning the whole thing all over again. You know, drive out, just explode from across the map or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Competitive is quite different. Yeah, it's why I'm not getting, like, I've been asked to get into competitive and I haven't, because the levels of frustration are also different. And
I mean, it takes a lot of fun out of it too. Yeah, like in my opinion. Yeah.
In my opinion, like every time I've gotten into competitive in a game, I've been basically the team captain or the team strategist. And I can't do that right now because I don't have the time for it. And I know if I don't do that, I'm just going to get pissed off at everyone. You know, like
yeah, it's kind of like an all or nothing thing.
yeah, like it's like either I need to be responsible for everything and for like the wins and losses in terms of the strategy. If I can't be responsible for everyone for that, I'm gonna get so mad at whoever is that it's like I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's like a normal pubs infantry match. It's like, you know, you got your squad, you're hanging out. If it's like comp game, it's like, all right, we're gonna split up in like units of 2 to 3, build OPs and switch squads and teleport over here and there and there. And I'm like, that's cool. Like, you know, that wins the game and stuff. But it's like, fuck, that's not fun to me.
Yeah.
So we had a couple. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Wes.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I've done a few comp games with MPA or Team Dix. I think they were Team Dix back then. Damn good games. I think individually I had one of the best games I've ever had in a comp game. And I do prefer playing, well, of course, infantry, but not as a squad leader. So I can focus on, like, we'll say a small slice of the game. If you're squad leader and it's like this much instead of like a one guy where you're like concentrating on, I'm doing hands.
Oh, yeah.
People listening can't see it. You got a smaller focus, and that's what I like doing. And I would still be doing comp games now. The only reason I'm not with, I don't know who's got comp teams now. I think it's the Outpost. I don't think MPA have a comp team anymore.
The GF guys.
It's time zone difference.
Oh.
All you guys in America, I'm in England. When they want to do their training sessions and stuff, it's 1 o'clock in the morning for me, and I'm just like, nah.
Oh yeah.
So I might look at like a UK-based group and see about getting in there.
Join the Germans. Yeah.
So
do we want to get
to the channel?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say we had a couple friends of the channel send in a handful of questions too, so I want to make sure we go ahead and touch base. Their questions are a little more in depth, Fresh, as to the meta. And Terry, you want to go ahead and take this one?
That's what I was going to ask. Do we want to, get into the topic at hand and start talking about the tank meta and the bad situation it's in right now?
Yeah, Fresher, what's pretty much your thoughts on that?
Okay, yeah, we can talk. This is how much time we got. So, I mean, just to we'll give a short history of the tanking meta and Hell Loose. We're obviously on update 11. Let's go back in time to update 10. Update 10 was obviously there's abundance of resources with the meta, and you just spam heavy tanks. That was it. And why you would do that? Because the heavy tank is pretty much on God mode. It can't be destroyed from the front besides anything from a heavy tank, another heavy tank, or an AT gun. So the goal is to always get heavy tanks. That's the end all be all of the tank meta in a nutshell. And then I'm reading the chat.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then once update 11 hit, obviously they cut the resources, half tracks were introduced also, and field became a lot more sparse. But the end all be all is still to end up in a heavy tank and see who has more heavy tanks. That is it. That is what you need. That's what you need to go for. And they didn't really change anything with that by, lowering the field resource. Because now instead of, spamming heavy tanks, you just go wait in the HQ for 6 minutes until you can get a heavy tank. That's the only difference. And then once you have your heavy tank, that's it. You're winning the game if you destroy the other heavy tank. Because an enemy team either has to do the same and wait for a heavy tank, or they can send out mediums at you that can't do anything to you, and you just keep blowing them up and send them into a spiral of fuel. The big problem with that is it's just not interesting. It gets old real fast, especially if a team doesn't know what they're doing and they don't know to wait for heavy tanks or anything like that. So that's really the underlying problems of the meta right now. Obviously tanking is still very fun in general, but it just kind of sucks that there's no need for, like a medium or anything like that. They have all these tanks that are probably more fun to use in a sense than heavy, but there's no point in using them.
Yeah. And there's also the AT gun situation where it doesn't really make any sense to engage a heavy tank with anything else except for another heavy or an AT gun, because AT guns, you can just find a vantage point, maybe distract the tank somehow, and or even just like pop some smoke RD and whatever and drop an AT gun in a matter of seconds, you put 2 rounds in faster than he can turn the turret towards you, and he's gone, and you didn't have to waste any fuel to do that. So that's obviously, like, between the tanks being fresh. In your video you mentioned a rock paper scissors thing, and every time you brought that up I was like, no dude, it's like a rock and paper, because there's nothing that beats paper, basically.
There's nothing in between the two.
Exactly. It doesn't loop back around. It's just a hierarchy, and the heavy tanks are the best tanks, are they are impenetrable from the front and will like one shot pretty much everything else. So it's a situation where once you get to that, once you have a dominant heavy tank somewhere, on a good position in the battlefield, you're not really going to take him out with anything else. So that creates that boring situation that you were talking about. And in your video, you also like commented on I think Tax Watch was there and someone else was, and you guys were talking about the possible fixes to that meta, which are really interesting, I think, because there's a lot of ideas going around in terms of what needs to be done.
There's a lot, and the main idea we're always fighting for in our Discord is probably the simplest. Okay, so that's the thing to keep in mind when we're talking about these solutions is you can't, let's cut the shit right now. This game is not going to be post-scriptum as far as tanking goes. It's hell loose. It's meant to be simple. Anyone that's asking for post-scriptum tanks, that's not what this game is. So they need to get that idea out of there. They need to come up with fixes that, are acceptable for hell loose. So that's kind of where we went with that.
Can you outline just give people insight into what acceptable would be? Because I think that's the misconception.
So you got to think simple. So Hell Let Loose is a very simple game, simple mechanics. They say, here are the tools, have at it. So as far as, fixing the heavy tank meta, obviously there's a couple really, really easy routes you can go there. If you want the simplest, you could probably just make it so mediums pen heavies from the front. Maybe it takes a few more shots. That's probably the simplest, most lazy way. But I think the idea kind of we want that in our Discord, and as far as the beer guys go, and I think the majority is kind of like weak spots in the front. This goes back to the before 4 times of, bag shots on the 76 or cupola shots on the Panther. Those are actually really fun and took a little skill to pull off. It made no sense, but if you can take that idea and apply it to heavy tanks more realistically, it can be fun.
That was when I started playing Hell Let Loose, that was the situation with tanks. Like, experienced tankers would know, like, oh, you got to hit the left side or the left cheek of the Panther right here, and if you don't hit it right there, then it's not going to work, and stuff like that I think makes it really interesting. And I think to complement on that, like, if the weak point system, I think adding nuance is the only actual solution, because if you're always going to have this, like, boxy like penetration values based on basically front, side, and rear and turret maybe, and that's it, then the tools aren't there for you to have a complex situation and for you to enable like a proper balance. It's always going to be a situation where, obviously you can't have a medium just outright kill the heavy with 2 tanks being able to penetrate from the front, because that would be unfair for the heavy, but you also can't have a situation where you're using the current system and say, like, okay, you know what, they can pen the front, but it's going to take like 6 or 7 shots, because that still doesn't make any sense. So you do need, I think, like, in my opinion, I do think that we need the weak point system back, and we also need a bullet, well, not bullet, like projectile variety, like system to go with that, like APCR, HE, whatever, according to those tanks. So maybe you have like a higher chance of penetrating the weak spot if you use the APCR or something, but it doesn't do as much damage as the regular shot or something, like, so maybe that can create a situation where if the enemy lands a shot before on you, then you can counter by saying, like, okay, he's shooting APCR at me, he's going to take 3 shots to kill me, I can turn back and two-shot him with the harder to hit bullet that is much harder to like, punch through the weak spot. But if I do hit it just right, then I do have a chance to survive this. Now, yeah, the question is, like, I think, let's talk about the other options, but like, do we think Black Matter is ever going to do this?
I don't think so. I don't think you're ever getting outside just the APHE standards. But what they probably could do is they could, implement range into the instance. So let's say you're further away, it kind of loses velocity over further range. So maybe a heavy or a medium has to get closer to a heavy to actually pen those weak spots or something like that.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of the better route to go rather than introducing all new ammo mechanics and kind of complicating that bit. Because like I said, Black Matter, they got to keep it simple. Like that's their MO. So that if they start introducing more ammo mechanics, they might complicate it further and kind of scare off some players.
Yeah, I'm sure some of that stuff is already baked into like the legacy build of the game. So I think if that ever became like an aspect, that would be more of a Hell Let Loose 2 thing.
Yeah. Who knows? Where to go with that.
I don't know, because I think Hell Let Loose, like the game we have now, still has a long way to go. Like it still has some time in development.
Yeah, I think they're still working on it for another at least year and a half, right?
A
long time.
And that's at least a year and a half, right? Because if you think about it, like
doing it too. That's not even whatever Team 17 is going to bring.
Yeah, like if they reach a point where, what I was going to say is, like, they released console version of the game last October, which is not too long ago. So, a situation where they just keep developing Hell Let Loose and just keep promoting it and adding new, like, if people keep buying it, then I can 100% see it, like, having multiple more years of development time.
Yeah, but the downside is once we get further and further away from, say when the full release happened, it's harder to make those changes, because it's such a big change. It's kind of, it's to take everything we've been teaching you for this long and just throw it out the door kind of aspect of that. So it gets harder to steer the ship the bigger it gets.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
So they can make. That's why we're seeing all these problems with the meta and stuff right now, and they're not making immediate changes in my head. It's like they already got us all set in our ways. They can't just go. Exactly. They just released the game and it's growing popularity. It's like and the longer they wait, the harder it gets to make these big changes.
So, like Squid says, there's 17 months now, technically, or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's say a year and a half still. But yeah, like Squid says, and I kind of agree, but he reckons, quality of life updates, fixes. We are getting the British faction. There could be, looking at the Kickstarter, they said the Canadians and Japanese after that, so we may get one of those. But in terms of full redesigns of certain systems, I don't think that's going to happen, because I still remember them talking about the resource nodes aren't meant to be in the game. They were a quick fix for something they actually wanted to develop further. They even said that the resource nodes were going to be upgradable, but we haven't heard anything on that.
No.
So I reckon they've shelved a lot of stuff, and to be honest, I do reckon after 18 months there will be no more Hell Let Loose new content. There'll still be some fixes, but I reckon Team 17 will be focused on a sequel. That's what I reckon. That's what I agree. The IP.
I agree.
Spend millions just to put out some DLC. They're going to be putting out new games, and let's hope not NFTs.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's a
Get your worms NFTs, guys.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Well, Terry. So we have Terry here. We obviously have Fresh here, and I think it's kind of interesting because Fresh, obviously, you're well known for your tanking, and Terry, you pretty much only run infantry, right? So between like the two of you, I'm just kind of interested, like, how do you feel about the overall balance between like infantry and tanking?
I'll start, I guess. Yeah. First, honestly, AT right now, as far as we've seen, it's outside the AT gun. I think satchels are in a fine place compared to what they were in U10. I think rockets are fine right now. I think a lot of people will say they're overpowered. I think they're fine. I think once you get more experience with the game, you can defend against them. The only thing that's overpowered right now is the AT gun. That's it. I think the balance right now is so close. And I think honestly, we're very, very fortunate for that the AT gun really isn't, its biggest weakness is that it takes a little teamwork, and we're very fortunate the pubs player base hasn't figured that out. But here's the facts. One AT guy can destroy any tank in the game, 1 life, aside from a heavy tank. That is more than fair. So that's it. They don't need, and even if they work with 1 support guy, 1 other AT, you can still destroy heavy in seconds. And I like that. It encourages teamwork and stuff. So right now, I think this is the most balanced it's ever been outside the AT gun.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. I'm just trying to quickly look at some patch notes and some news, because I'm pretty sure that they said that the AT gun is bugged against heavy tanks, where I think it can like 2-shot heavy tanks to the front or something like that.
Yeah, they kind of went quiet on that afterwards. I remember that popped up, and it popped up, then they like went radio silence. Now they don't answer anyone in the Discord when that comes out. So we'll see. I don't know.
Balance.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I mean, when I see a tank, I know we can quite easily take this out if we get into the right position. If that tank is in a good position, it's going to completely screw us over, because it should be able to, because of what it is. Just like if the tank goes into a bad position against infantry, let's say a forest, it's going to get probably destroyed pretty quickly, because there's so much like cover and clutter that it could be hard for the tank. It's a bad point for the tank, right?
Yeah,
I'm kind of happy with it.
And I'll say right now,
just sort of ignore tanks and sort of run past them. There's a tank. I'll let someone else destroy it.
And it's pretty easy to tell once you get enough experience under your belt. Like when you're making a decision in a tank that you're going to die from AT, in the back of your head, you're like, "We could do this. Probably going to die." It's just one of those things. Like
I think every time in one of your videos, I hear that. We're probably going to die, but all right.
Yeah. So I think right now it's in a really good spot. It encourages teamwork, but at the same time, for those solo dudes that just want to run around with a bazooka, hey, if they can get around a medium, apparently it's all theirs. I think a big problem is people just don't have the information of where to shoot. So you get these people that are like, "Oh, I shot like 4 fucking rockets at a Panzer IV and couldn't kill it." It's like, they're probably shooting tracks or side or some shit instead of the back. It's one of those things. But, yeah, I think right now, obviously it's in a very good spot, minus the AT gun. The AT gun is just fucking absurd. It's like it can only be comparable to a heavy tank, because that's what it is. It's got the penetration power of a heavy tank, but it doesn't cost the team any resources to build. It teleports around the map. There's no cooldown. You can build as many per squad as you want. There's no limit on them. And it's super easy to abuse. And we were talking about comp games earlier. I can't imagine how badly that ruins tanking on comp games when you're going up against a team that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just unfortunate, because the AT gun was actually really good in U10. No one used it because there's actually a risk to using it. You put it down, you lose a sector, you couldn't rebuild it. It's not even so much that the penetration power is what makes it OP. It's the fact that you can teleport it around the map no problem, and it costs a little. As
a guy that had that did use a lot of the AT guns before, I think they were underpowered, because for example, a map like Kursk or just many other maps where a tank could get into a position that you can't really flank, and if it's a heavy tank, you could literally do nothing with the AT gun. So there was no situation where you would be able to defeat that tank with something that wasn't a heavy tank. Just no chance. So the fact that they increased the penetration and you can now take out heavy tanks, that's not only like more historically accurate, which isn't like I don't think it's like the super focus of Helladius, but now at least you have something that you can use if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have the fuel to field a heavy tank, and the other team has like 2 heavy tanks. It's good that you have the AT gun to be able to fight those situations, but it's still like super overpowered, because you can teleport it anywhere. You can if you manage to flank the tank or get into like behind him or on the side or something, you can very quickly build a gun, and he won't even be able to rotate fast enough to deal with it, right?
Yeah, because it's a 4-second reload time. It's one of those things where if you have a squad that knows what they're doing, you just you redeploy, drop supplies, redeploy, drop supplies. So instead of even turning the gun, you just rebuild it instantly at wherever you need to point it. So it's just one of those things where it's just the cost to do it is just not. It's so underpriced for what it does. And it should be something that requires a supply truck or an airdrop or something. That way. If someone really wants to go still abuse it, they can have at it if they want to redeploy fucking 4 times for 1 AT gun. That's probably the simplest fix for that. I would love to see a cooldown on it, so that way my squad's not built, or a limit per squad. Because it's like cursed now. It's like I go in there, if I want an AT gun, I'm building like 4 AT guns in a corner because infantry doesn't spawn after a certain distance, so you can just build like 4 AT guns and shoot across the map with markers and get tank kills, and they don't know where it's coming from because they can't see you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think in simplest terms, the main point I think we're all trying to that we're all on the same page of is what it costs 50 for an AT gun, right?
Yeah,
it can. How much is the heavy tank?
600 fuel with a 5-minute cooldown.
Right. So 600 fuel, 5-minute cooldown, where an AT gun can be put by any single level 3 AT with 50 supplies. And you can put it anywhere in the map, and it takes 2 shots to kill any tank.
The 4-second reload time. So you can get 2 shots off before they even get 1 realistically.
Exactly. So I think that's why we are pretty much all on the same page that for the most part, it's OP.
It just needs to look at
some sort of balance. Yeah. Some sort of balance. Terry, you want to take this next one here? It's another kind of dive into the tanking. Should be the last one you're on.
I'm a bit lost.
You're good.
I feel like we're just gone.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. The function of tanks.
Yeah. So haven't we covered pretty much how the tanks work, and do you think they're working fine in terms of the function of them?
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely going in the right direction. Like the Panzer IV is actually fun to drive, despite like it getting stuck on everything. But as far as being such a simple mechanics behind it, I think it's still a lot of fun. The Sherman is finally getting some love. I didn't personally get to try it during this PTE, but from what I've heard, it's actually going to be really, really good. So that is insane that the medium Sherman's actually going to be somewhat of a viable option until that first Tiger comes out. But tanks are still fun, man. I got nothing wrong with them. I think they're going in the right direction. I think when they announced there's going to be an armor overhaul, I don't think they should have done that. I think they should have just released these updates slowly, little by little, instead of getting everyone hyped up, thinking it was going to be some massive change. But I think they are going in the right direction.
Cool.
So another question someone submitted, and I think this is a pretty interesting one. Is there too much load on the maps as the only variable factor in Hell Loose's gameplay? So, for example, what would you think about specific maps having their own metas and limiting specific tanks or vehicles or loadouts for each?
I'm all for that, man. Anything that encourages variety and different tactics than what you're doing the same thing every different map. I'm for, man. Like my dream for this game is if, I'm thinking back on like Battlefield and like Rush, where you have to plant explosive on something and blow it up, or, if they can make unique objectives, I'm all for that. If they want to say, hey, there's only medium tanks on this map, or even just light tanks on a map, as far as tanks go, I'm all for that, man. Anything that encourages people to get outside their comfort zone and have a little more fun. I think that's kind of where you have the best times in this game. So I think we'd only encourage it.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you think the maps?
So, there are some weapons in the game that, well, let's say the STG-44, right? You can use that weapon on every single map in every single period of World War II, whenever the maps are set. But that weapon was actually introduced later in World War II, such like other vehicles and stuff. Do you think they should go down that route and limit what weapons and vehicles were historically available based on those maps, if that makes sense?
That's a tough one. I know personally I would like it, but you have to think about the overall player base. It's like we're probably those guys that would love to see a fucking bolt action map or something like that. But I'm thinking all the people coming over from like Call of Duty and Battlefield and shit that love having that freedom of all the autos and stuff. I don't think they would like it, but I would personally enjoy, say it was Kursk, but there's no tanks and only infantry with bolt action. I know that's kind of the opposite of what Kursk was, but I think the trench warfare would be a lot of fun.
I wonder if you could do like a server setting for like a historical mode, something like that. So
Yeah,
you could
for
have
real.
these historical-based servers.
Be a fun event, dude. Fun event.
You remember
Something
Battlefield 1
only
had
bolt
that?
action.
I think
Battlefield 1, right? It was what was it called? But it was standard issue rifles. Battlefield 1 had, and it was everyone gets the one standard issue rifle for that faction. That was a pretty cool game mode if you ever played that.
I mean, I would love to see like maybe you see all these battle royale games doing like weekend events or week-long events, dude. If Team 17 could come out and like do certain events to where you could join a certain server and it's just those rules, I think that'd be a good idea. You don't have to do it, but you have the option to do it, and I'm sure there'd be enough people to fill that.
I'd love to see maps like when they first announced Kursk, I was like, oh, dude, awesome. Because in my head, I pictured a map where you would have just like a bunch of like HQ tanks, like basically like free spawning tanks, like all over the place, right? Like a whole lot of tanks available at every single moment. So you would always find like this massive tank battle going on. But it's not quite like that, right? Because it just follows the same rules as every other Hell Loose match. So I think like adding more of those maps, maybe having like an infantry only map, having a huge tank, almost no infantry map, stuff like that would be like super awesome. It reminds me of Battlefield 1942, like maps like Coral Sea and Aberdeen, which were basically that. And that was like, it's not, maybe you don't put it in the rotation, super often, but it's cool. Like when it comes out and it's something completely different to most maps, like
just Kursk right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just tanking only. If you're infantry, just good luck. Everyone else, like, we'll post up by windows.
That is one tough map for the infantry.
How do you feel?
I agree with that idea.
What? Yeah,
Kursk being difficult. Kursk in general.
The map load having such an impact in the tank gameplay and just infantry in general too. I mean,
Kursk is like the fucking WWE of this game, dude. It's no rules. Like I hate spawn camping. I don't destroy empty vehicles in spawn unless it's fucking Kursk. Once Kursk comes up, it's a fucking cage match, dude. There's no rules. The gloves come off. I'm getting up to the wheels and everyone's dying. So it's fun for what it is, but at the same time, you can't play it and be like, okay, this is something seriously wrong here with these spawn points being able to be seen across the map. And I know, like Raz, as you know, like we know this map's being worked on. We can only hope that the changes coming fix all this. But right now, it's like, dude, that map. Once they see it come from rotation, it's like everything goes out the window, and it's a fucking death match.
To give some viewers or listeners some context to kind of what we're talking about, for those of you that haven't played tanking a lot, right? So in Kursk, essentially the meta, right, is to go to the windmills area. And at the moment, the Germans and the Russians, but mainly the Russians spawn the far left spawn when you're looking. What would that be? The top right spawn when you're looking at the map? Would it be?
No, top left.
It is out in the middle.
Yeah, left is left if you're on windmills as Germans.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, so top left on the map is the worst spawn because that spawn is wide open. So you can see it from almost every single angle, and any tank that spawns, you can kill. Typically, like Fresh mentioned, we don't kill tanks. It's usually a rule of thumb. As they spawn. But the problem with Kursk and why we have to do it is because any tank is a threat. So there's no way to know if that tank is, because it can see you too. If you can see it, right, it's going to go ahead and just turn to you and just stay in place and shoot you. So you have to go ahead and shoot every single one that pops up the second you see it. Every other map, if you see a tank, you just don't engage until they move.
Mm-hmm.
But man,
so Kursk is like a bit of a beautiful mess. It's like getting blackout drunk. Like you want to do it occasionally, but after you do it, like I'm good for a long time on that.
Yeah. I just will never forget me, Tack, and Saucy. Just shout out to the boys, man. We killed so many dang tanks one day that one guy came up and made his life mission to satchel us. He satcheled us one time. And the next day, I'm getting ready for work, scrolling through Reddit, and I see a video, and I was like, oh, it has no views. It's like a brand new post. I'm like scrolling through it, and I'm looking at it, and I was like, this looks awfully familiar. And then it's the exact spot that we got satcheled, and then he runs the exact same way, and I pop out, and Saucy pops out the exact same spot, and it's literally the same play that we were just doing the day before, and he's like, I finally got these guys. So it's like, I don't know, moments like that make it so memorable. I enjoy it, but there's been plenty of times that it's rough. We're on the losing engine. And
yeah, hopefully they manage to fix tanks in the future, by bringing the Panther back and doing the whole like weak spot mechanic thing. I still feel like they haven't been very straightforward in terms of what their visions for tanking are. Before update 11, there was this the whole like, there's going to be like a tank update, and it's going to involve like 2 separate parts, right? And then they gave us this like hierarchy thing. With the simple penetration values for like light, medium, heavy, with light, medium, heavy sides and stuff like that. And we haven't really had much information since. I do think on the PC feedback forum, I dropped the idea that AT guns should be tied to nodes. We talked about that. I know Fresh on your Discord, that AT guns should only be able to be built in a radius of a munitions node. So that way you can't just go around building AT guns anywhere, and you have to build them in like a base area or something, and then tie the munitions node to garrisons as well. Like you can't build nodes unless they are close to a garrison. Something in that scenario that actually encourages. Squid saying on the chat it's too complicated. The thing is, like, without adding some complication, without adding some more level of complexity, it's still just going to be the same thing. And when you don't have enough parameters to like be able to tweak and balance things, you only have like 3, which are like, okay, like the AT gun damage and penetration, the heavy and medium and light tank damage and penetration, like that's like whatever, 6 values, whatever. Like you can't really achieve a level playing field. I think you have to do something that increases the complexity of the systems that we have already. Something has to be
and
done. Luckily,
and tanking in general is just so simple in this game, but there's so much potential for these changes. I think that's why it's such a good topic. They can go so many different routes. You just have to keep so many things in mind. In the back of my head, I'm pretty sure like how tanking actually, like, once you break it down, it's literally just like 4 sliders of like penetration, movement, speed. Like, they just move those around trying to see what they can get. But yeah, I mean, as far as tying things to the nodes goes, I mean, I love that. Nodes right now are just a fucking chore. You just build them at the start of the game in the HQ, then you move on from them. So, if we could tie something back to like AT guns to where they can only be built by munitions nodes, cool with that. I think that's great. It kind of, in that way, you're not fucking teleporting behind the tank and 2 sectors out and just plopping up a gun out of your pocket. I think that kind of makes them more defensive the way they should be used, not, just teleporting it behind a tank whenever you get the chance and kind of trolling them. So I think that as far as AT guns go, I'm down with that.
What if AT guys could no longer build AT guns, and AT guns were a spawnable vehicle back at base that had to be towed to a location?
I'm absolutely all for that.
I would be 100% for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm down for that. I'm down for the commander has to spawn them in.
That's kind of
Battlefield, right? Battlefield 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. You could tell.
You could. Yeah, and you could like dismount them from the tank and re-tow them and stuff like that, which was really cool. That's kind of a similar solution to one that you guys proposed in your video, Fresh, that has to do with tank destroyers.
Yeah, I mean, that's such like a long-term down the line thing, I think, though. Like, I mean, it's really how long they want this current meta to continue right now, because tank destroyers, they can't even change the Panther without taking it out of the game. It takes them so long to change any sort of tank in this game. I can't imagine them introducing, because that's going to change the whole meta as far as tanking goes. I would love to see it. I think it's a great idea. I think it's so far away. I think that'll be like one of the last things we get in the game if we get it. I know we've been told they're coming, but I still in the back of my head, it's not something I would depend on. I think it's a great fix, and then would add a whole nother layer to tanking. If it's like in between a heavy and a medium, but at the same time, it opens up a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, basically
some crazy motherfucker just driving a damn truck with two guys on an AT gun behind it. That would shit. Jesus Christ. I love
to see the 88, the truck mounted 88 German gun would be awesome, because that thing's so huge. Imagine seeing that in the battlefield, seeing that shoot. That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Just more vehicles in general, man.
Tank that's coming. I don't think that's gonna.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do with that.
No,
yeah, I saw that on the roadmap. I don't know if they're gonna let you shoot down like Collins or what. But that just seems like I don't know. That's like the flamethrower to me. They're saying like, you're fine. Like, we don't need this, but you want it.
Yeah,
I'm just afraid of optimization when that comes in. Jesus
God. I mean, it's right now. It's like, have you tried to run a Luke's column yet? It's fun as hell. We tried it. Like, I love that you can spawn the Lukes, and now it's totally pointless and totally just ridiculous. But I think that'll be kind of on that level.
I had a really great run with the Lukes the other day with two, pretty new players, certainly new to tanking. And we just focused on, going behind enemy lines and just finding their garrisons and taking them out, which with the Lukes is surprisingly easy and fast to do, right? Because if you have someone with good map awareness that knows where those garrisons are going to be located, and you kind of know where you have to be in order to be able to land shots on those garrisons, then, it's a very simple, easy way to completely destroy their back line. And it's a completely different style of tanking, I guess. It's really good.
Absolutely. No, it's kind of funny. This is probably a really hot take on everything, but the first 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes of the game are the most fun tanks get. There's no heavies on the field. Yeah. The Lukes, you have free range. You can go around. I think that's a great example. The Lukes is a great tank to use. It's super fun, but there's no reason to use it after a while. And my hot take on the whole tanky matter, is that heavy tanks actually are the worst part about tanking in Hell at Loose. When you really think about it, medium on medium, best engagements in the game currently.
So fun. Fun.
So it's kind of funny to think that way right now. It's the one tank that you have to be in, kind of ruins the whole tanking game a little bit more, because you have to be in it.
No, absolutely. I think the mediums are my favorite. I'd be interested to try. Oh, thank you so much for the bits. I appreciate you.
They're bitten all over you.
They're bitten. I'm really interested to try this medium Sherman, because I feel like right now it's interesting with the medium Sherman not being able to turn as fast, where it has all superior armor to the Panzer IV, because the Panzer IV is so squared off. So I'm interested to see how the Panzer IV will compete with the medium Sherman now that the medium Sherman is going to have confirmed pretty much for this patch. I believe, maneuverability.
Yeah, the Panzer IV is about to get clapped.
Well,
the medium Sherman's a better tank on tank engagement.
Exactly.
Well, we're going to have to see what happens with the Panther then, because, if they improve the Sherman, there's still like a third, a third German tank that's not there yet.
I mean, the thing that I'm dreading is they might turn the Panther into kind of like how the Jumbo 75 is, where it's just kind of like, it's a great tank to use as infantry support, but obviously it can't pan the Tiger from the front, so there's no point wasting the fuel on it. If the Panther comes out and it can't penetrate a Jumbo from the front,
it's not going to
why are we doing this here?
It's not going to penetrate it's not going to penetrate. Yeah,
it'll be fun to use, but it's just going to be a waste of fuel for 500 fuel.
Yeah.
So the last question I have here is just a guest question that someone submitted an email to us. Thank you for the submission. Emails? Yeah, man. Nice. Plug the email real quick. What's the email? I forget. Mono knows it.
monosgameclub@gmail.com.
Yes. So this question is from a listener. So Fresh, we'll go ahead and hand it over to you. So how do you feel Hell Loose coming to console will impact the future growth of the game? Any insight about what's to come on console?
I mean, I have no idea what's coming to console. That's a whole nother. Obviously, on Discord, we bug the Black Matter people all the time. Console is made by Flix. I don't know anyone at Flix. So I couldn't tell you what's coming that way or when. We keep hearing. I think we all keep hearing the same stuff from Black Matter. People saying, "No, yeah, their update's coming. It's not abandoned or anything." Despite
it'll be ready when it's ready.
Yeah. But as far as the console release goes, dude, it's like if you have a successful product, why not get it in the hands of more people? And this is not a game I would play on console, but if you don't have any other choice and you can't play it on PC, and then that's great. I'm glad there's this type of game available for people that can play it on console, and that's their only option. So, it's only going to put more money in the pockets of devs.
Terry, did you have much experience with the console version?
I tried the beta and I played it on the day of release, but I really struggled to play it just because I'm so out of practice using analog sticks to aim.
It's PS5 you have it for?
It played, yeah. And it played pretty well. When I played it, there was still quite a bit of stutters happening. But I think they've been ironed out a bit more now. But yeah, mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, it's like we've tasted the fucking cream, dude. You can't go. I'm not gonna downgrade ourselves to go play console, but hey, man, if drinking 40s now is the only option you got, dude, go do it. Go have a blast.
It's still good on consoles, but it is better on PC. But there are more complications for PC because you optimize a game for a console. It's this system spec. And well, all four of us here will have completely different systems. Yeah. You need to optimize it to work on all of them,
Yeah, I think it's the overall game.
I think the console version needs a lot more aim assist than it currently has, because the situation, I think, is like for such a like being able to aim at a guy that's 150 meters away, 200 meters on PC is not an issue, really. It is 100% an issue on PC, on console, because the sensitivity that you have to be able to achieve when you're like up close to someone versus when they're like super far away, like the distance of engagements is so different that I think it really needs a lot more tweaking than it has currently, at least by judging from the what people are saying in the comment sections and videos and stuff like that.
So I will say this. I put out a poll on my YouTube channel that asked if you play on console or PC. And I was actually pretty surprised. It was only 67% playing on PC, 33%. And it was close to 1,000 voters.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, so I was actually really surprised. I think the console actually is way bigger than we all think it is, because that caught me off guard.